because before it was, okay, I cook because there is a lot of ego in me and, I want to be the best chef and blah, blah, but then seeing that food can be used to do other stuff, helping people, it was like just really life-changing.
Today on Dirty Linen, we are chatting to a new restaurateur in Melbourne, somebody who is doing something interesting and fun, and of course, dealing with rolling lockdowns and all the challenges that brings. His name is Paolo Arlotta, and his restaurant is in Fitzroy, and it is Riso Diner. Paolo, welcome.
Hi, Dani. Thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to finally chat. And
It's really great to chat. And I just want to let the listeners know that you are on Dirty Linen by listener request. So somebody got in touch with me and said, hey, I really want to know the story behind Riso Diner. They seem like really great guys and doing something really interesting. So I want to know more. And I thought, well, now I want to know more as well. So I reached out to you and got in touch. So I just want to put the word out that if anybody's wondering about anybody's story, well, let me be that community service and I'll bring their story to you. So, Paolo, you opened Riso in our long lockdown last year. Tell me how all that came about.
There was a bit of a journey. So, the restaurant that was here at Riso was called Youngblood. I think it was like a cafe that was open on the weekend. And I used to run pop-up dinners here. So before opening the restaurant, I was like a freelance chef. And I was running this event called Herbivores Nights. So I was trying to promote vegetarian food throughout like different venues. And Youngbloods was one of those venues. And then when the first lockdown happened, the place was put on lease, and I had all my equipment in the back, all my pots, my Thermomix, and all the stuff that I was using for the pop-ups. And like when the first lockdown happened, we didn't know what was going to happen. Like it was total uncertainty. So I thought, to just get on the lease and try to go with the flow, since I knew the landlords and the owners, and they've been pretty supportive with me. And I jumped on this journey, this crazy journey, and I opened my first restaurant, which was never on my plans, if I have to be honest with you. Like my freelance career was going pretty well before lockdown, and a restaurant wasn't in any of my near plans. So it just happened to be, and I'm so grateful that happened. I mean, it's still sad that lockdown happened and all this stuff, but for me it was like a great opportunity, I have to be honest.
That's so interesting, Paolo, because in a lot of ways, being that freelancer and being really nimble and able to do pop-ups and be really flexible to, not have those sunk costs in a venue is actually really much more practical for a pandemic. But instead, you've tied yourself to a venue and all those ongoing costs. But you still sound really happy about it. Yeah,
like it's been, don't get me wrong, it's been very challenging, like both because of lockdown, both because it was my first experience as a restaurant owner. Like I knew nothing about marketing, accounting, and having a team. So it was challenging, and after 3 years of freelancing, which meant I was working basically when I wanted to work. As you mentioned, like the money was pretty good because there are no fixed costs in running a cooking class or running like a pop-up dinner. It's been challenging, but I firmly believe that without challenges there is no growth. And still, I'm so proud of me and the team here of what we've done, and the growth has been exponential, even if it was challenging. So I'm still quite grateful for the opportunity, all the lessons that I encountered in these first 8 months, and whatever is going to happen with the restaurant, to be honest, I'm already satisfied. Like for me, it's been already great, and this is how I see life anyway in general, and I can apply this to my work, which I still love after all these years.
Well, I'd love to learn a bit more about the vegetarian focus. So you said you were doing your herbivorous nights, these vegetarian dinner series before you launched the restaurant, and you also continued with some of those nights early in the restaurant's life. And there's also seems to be a bit of a eco focus, like with making sure you're using sustainable packaging and just thinking about the earth in everything that you do. Tell us about that whole side of things.
So the vegetarian dinners started in 2013, I think. Where was the first one? Oh my God, it was so long time ago. Oh, with Jesse. So Jesse Gurner, you remember when Jesse Gurner was running the Molecular Mondays at the Aylesbury, which is now Bomba? So I think after that he wanted to promote vegetarian food, and he started doing these vegetarian Mondays, and that was my first kind of pop-up dinner. I think we did 3 or 4, and at the time I already left Vue de Monde, and I was working at Kinfolk Cafe in the city, which was a big change of lifestyle and work, which allowed me to focus more on myself and getting into sports and all the jazz that comes with the cafe lifestyle as a chef. The dinners then eventually moved a Kinfolk Cafe under the name As Big As You Eat. So I ran those dinners for a couple of years. And then when I finished Kinfolk, the dinner became the Herbivorous Nights, which were first hosted at a place in Brunswick called Host, which is now closed, and then moved a little bit around the grain store, siblings, and then finally I found this place called Youngbloods, which is where Riso is now. And the dinners were, of course, a way for me to express my creativity and have fun, because pop-up and collaborations are always a lot of fun. But also was a way for me to promote vegetarian food, because I'm vegetarian myself since 2009, and I always struggled to find, refined food in terms of when it comes to vegetarian food. I always felt like, at least back in the days, now things are changing. Like vegetarian food was really treated like, okay, let's slice some veggies very thin and put a salad dressing and that's it. So it was a way for me to, show people that vegetarian food can be interesting, can be good for the palate, can be delicious, and can substitute meat in some ways. But my philosophy around vegetarian food is that I don't want people to not eat meat at all. I just believe that sometimes can be substitute. Vegetarian food can be delicious, and if we can limit the amount of meat that we eat, if it's not 7 days a week, but it's 5. Those 2 days, they don't have to be a chore. They can be still enjoyed with some delicious vegetarian food. And I always say that the problem with veggies is that people really don't know what to do when it comes. Oh my God, I have an eggplant here. What am I going to do? But it's simply because it has not been spread enough the way we cook veggies. But as I was saying before, the things are changing. So I think there is a lot more effort, even in fine dining. Look at 11 Madison Park that turned completely vegan a few months ago. So things are slowly changing. People are a bit more conscious in the way, especially in the hospitality industry, I think. And this is why it's important for me to run a restaurant as sustainably as I can.
So what else do you do along sustainable lines?
So, well, first I'd like to underline something is very important for me is that, changes in general happens when a lot of people make small changes rather than one person making a lot of changes. So when 100% sustainable restaurants happen is great, but also I think it's very important that a lot of restaurants will make minor changes. So I think the scale of change is bigger when it happens like that. When it comes to Riso, we put a lot of effort in the way we recycle stuff. So we partner up with a company called Be Alternative, which help us making sure that all our recycling wastage get actually recycled. There are some underlying issues in the way rubbish is dispatched in Australia. I mean, in Victoria, I don't know, outside Victoria. So this company makes sure that when for example, the glass, when it's picked up, actually is recycled, because it doesn't happen all the time. I don't want to, and it's in front of our eyes. If you see, even in our houses, when the truck picks up our recycle and our landfill, they go exactly in the same bin and in the same truck, and then everything gets thrown in landfill. And I think it's very very bad.
Well, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, and this company actually, like, they are so driven that they actually follow the trucks, so like they make sure like it gets recycled properly. So this is one of our first most important things, because of course restaurants, they produce a lot of wastage, and also we try to actually produce as less wastage as possible. So like we always opt for food and stuff that has no much plastic. All our veggies are delivered like in crates and then are given back to the veg suppliers. And also we try to use everything from the vegetables, like all the skins and all the stuff gets used for stock. We do a lot of fermentation, like dehydration, and we try to use everything that we can. Also, sometimes we import stuff, especially when it comes to rice. So the restaurant is called Riso because as an ode to the rice, which is very much a thing that's growing in my hometown. I come from the northwest of Italy, in Piemonte, and my small town is a very, very boring small town. This is why I left. There are rice fields everywhere, and it's like hot and humid summers, cold and foggy winters, 7,000 people, a lot of gossiping, nothing exciting. I love my own town, but,
What's the name of your town?
My hometown is called Crescentino, and is the biggest city next to it would be Turin. Beautiful city. And of course,
oh my God, I love that part of Italy so much.
Yeah. But
I'm sorry it's so boring and there's so much gossip, but oh my goodness, to visit, it's just so, Torino is so beautiful, and I just love that countryside, and I love the food. I love the little villages. I wish you could just take me there just for a day.
Yeah, I miss home, especially now. It's been a while since, yeah. But as I was saying, we make great carnaroli rice, also other varieties. We're quite big on risottos there. And, riso, which means rice, but also laughter, is homage to me, to my hometown. And so we import rice. We import rice that is produced actually 600 meters from my parents' house, like a quite innovative, great company. Because there are no alternatives in Australia. So I believe that when there is no alternative, maybe there are ways to be sustainable, even if we're importing. So through Be Alternative, we partner up with a rescue rainforest in the Daintree. So every time we import this rice, this company calculate how many CO2 emissions we produce. And then we plant trees. We donate and plant trees in the Daintree to equalize the CO2 emissions. So we don't have impact on the system. And that's pretty much
so thoughtful.
Yeah. So that's one of the only ingredients that we import. All the rest is quite local, Victorian. Sometimes, of course, outside Victoria. But like as I was saying before, if there is a small thoughtful actions like this in each restaurant in Melbourne, the scale of change would be like quite big. So I hope we can inspire other restaurants in doing so. And in fact, I have a lot of friends that are now interested in the way we treat our rubbish. They want to join the Rainforest Rescue Project as well. So I think it's amazing that community is quite strong when it gets together and share such a vision. So yeah.
How have you found the the independent restaurateur community in Melbourne, you know, as you've opened up your own place, do you find it very collaborative and collegial, especially through these difficult times?
Yes, yes. I especially, you know, like I worked at Tipo, for example, for a while, and I'm pretty good relationship with them. They've been very supportive. Another friend that owns a restaurant in Richmond has been like super supportive with, you know, accounting tips, and because I was totally a newbie and I opened the place on my own with no knowledge, and of course the only way I could learn all these things was through the experience of other restaurant owners, and yeah, it's been amazing. Like they've been very supportive. Even the landlords here have been like quite incredible. You know, like um, they design a lease with, you know, COVID restrictions help and all the stuff. So I feel pretty lucky. Also, when we open, we had a lot of friends, you know, donating their time and their knowledge. Like, I don't know, just for example, like helping me creating cocktails and do some free training was. Feel very blessed, you know, and I feel like without all this help, this wouldn't be possible.
That's great. Is there something about, you know, what, you know, some behind the scenes aspect of owning a restaurant that has really surprised you? You're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe there's this works like this, or I can't believe this thing costs so much. I can't believe this thing is such a hassle.
Well, yeah, like in terms of costing, I'm still quite shocked when electricity bills come, and this is something I didn't know even as a chef. Like rates, like the fixed costs of having a restaurant are incredible, and often we don't know that as customers and even as chefs. You know, when I remember me complaining about in the past about my bosses, you know, oh my God, my pay is really low. But, you know, like to run a restaurant, you really need to get some flowing in terms of money because the costs are incredible. And I don't have like full-time staff at the moment because, we work with casuals most of the time. So I can't imagine like how much a restaurant has a lot of staff has to trade to survive, and especially in these times of lockdown is unbelievable. Yeah.
Paolo, I'd love to learn a little bit more about, you know, when you came to Melbourne, what brought you here, and was it Vue de Monde that you worked at initially?
Yes. So before coming to Australia, I was living in Singapore. I was working at the Marina Bay Sands, and I worked there for
Fancy.
Fancy, yeah. At the time, I was quite obsessed with fine dining and, you know, becoming like a Michelin star chef and blah, blah, and all this stuff. It was like my kind of teenager dreams. And I worked in a restaurant called Guy Savoy at the Marina Bay Sands. Then I worked for Mario Batali as well in the same complex. And then after, I think a year or a year and a few months, I moved to Melbourne because I met someone that was telling me about this restaurant, like Vue de Monde, where you need to check it out. And then my dream was to travel and work in like very good restaurants at the time. So I came to Melbourne, drop off the airplane, and with the luggages, I went straight away to Vue de Monde with the CV, saying, I want to work here. You know? And yeah.
They took you on?
They took me on because they were always looking for staff. And I started at the bistro as a sous chef at the time. I worked there for I think 6-7 months. And then when the Vue moved up Rialto Tower, I also moved there with the team, and I spent another year and a half. Which was still a great experience, you know, for the amount of things I've learned and the dedication and the attention, you know. Like there were ups and downs, of course, you know, but I'm always grateful for the learnings. So yeah, it was a good experience.
Was it there, you know, through that experience that you sort of let go of this Michelin ambition and started working in other kinds of restaurants?
Yes, because what happened when I had my last holiday at Vue de Monde, I asked them to send me to stage in some restaurants around the world. So I spent my holidays researching and studying. So I went to Key in Sydney for a few weeks, and then I spent some time in Noma as well, and then the last stage was in Milan for Pietro Lehmann. It is a restaurant called Gioia. It's a Michelin star restaurant that is fully vegetarian, and for me it was, oh my god, the realization of a dream, because I always looked up at them. And then when I came back, I was pretty exhausted, and because I spent all this time working and traveling, and I realized maybe I needed a little bit of a change in my life. And then I found this little cafe called Kinfolk, which was I think they're closed now, like they just closed recently, and it was like a non-for-profit cafe. And I never worked in a cafe before, and like having every night off and the weekend off was a big change. And I thought like it would be just for a few months, and then I would go back to fine dining or restaurant life. But then I get accustomed to the good lifestyle and training and running, and started reading again and all the good stuff. I started practicing yoga more often, which was like a big part of my last few years. So yeah, then I ended up spending three years at Kinfolk, getting my residency and then eventually citizenship. And then,
it's so different. It's so interesting that it was really that lifestyle aspect that drew you in. And it's almost like you had the time and you were awake enough that you could look up and see what else was around you in the world. It's really telling. And yeah, Kinfolk in the city did recently close, but they are still going at their North Carlton operations. Sibling is still going, and they're still doing their fantastic work as a social enterprise, feeding people. They do, and they'll do events when events are back. It's a really fantastic, socially minded organisation that also uses a lot of volunteers. So, but I can just, I mean, I think Vue de Monde's amazing, and I think Kinfolk's amazing, but it would be hard to find two more different businesses in Melbourne doing with such different projects and such different customers as well.
Yeah, and Dani, when I moved from Vue de Monde to Kinfolk, they still had the old cafe, so we didn't go through the renovations yet. So we were literally cooking on two kitchen, camping stoves. So and a salamander. That was the equipment. So I went from because when we moved to Rialto, it was a brand new kitchen. Everything was induction, like super expensive. And all that. So I went from there to the kitchen, which was shocking. But still, like it was one of the best experiences actually as a chef, because for the ethos. And I remember they sent me also to Ghana when they still supported like outside Australia projects. So seeing with my own eyes what our work was creating in terms of opportunities for people that need help, it was like life-changing. Because before it was, okay, I cook because there is a lot of ego in me and, I want to be the best chef and blah, blah, but then seeing the food can be used to do other stuff rather than just, feeding people that are in the search for the ultimate flavor, but, also can be applying in certain social environment and helping people. It was like just really life-changing.
Wow. Yeah. It's I mean, I can really see a through line to the way your attitude to Riso and, all the challenges that you face. I mean, do you feel like you've really gained some perspective that gives you valuable tools as a new business owner?
Yes. And I forgot to mention that also, like before lockdown, I went for a couple of years this project called Chefs of Yoga. I don't know if you ever heard.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit about that. Tell me about Chefs of Yoga.
Yeah, so after I left Vue de Monde, like yoga became like quite a thing for me. Like I really found like was helping me a lot. So from 1 day a week, it became 2 and 3, and then eventually became a daily practice. And then eventually I did my teacher training, which was just to deepen my knowledge in the yoga world. I wasn't planning to become a teacher or anything like that. But then eventually I had this idea of starting spreading yoga amongst my chef fellows and friends, since it helped me so much. I thought maybe it can help also some other chefs and hospitality workers. I started teaching, like running some community classes for chefs, and then eventually moved into actually going into restaurants and teach. So we taught, I think, for at least a year at Maru in Armandale. We taught loom in South Melbourne. I think at Kinfolk we were running classes there. So it was like a great initiative. And then eventually lockdown happened. We did a little bit of a collaboration with Wordsmith for running some live classes. And then the thing faded away because I got so busy with the restaurant. I haven't been practicing much yoga as well recently because the restaurant takes a lot of time, energy, and effort. But yeah, it was a great experience, and I hope some people get something out of it.
What differences do you notice, whether it's with yourself or with chefs that you helped teach yoga? Like, what differences do you notice that it brings to somebody's life or their rhythm in a week?
Well, what I was saying when I used to run the yoga classes, it was like always. It doesn't have to be yoga, any form of activity that involve any kind of mindfulness or anything that creates a sort of introspection in yourself. Because, like chefs, we are always, I say chef, but sorry for that, but I mean everyone in the hospital, front of house, anything. I always say chef because I'm a chef, but when I say that, I mean all of hospitality workers. We're always such in a fast-paced environment, that is very, very hard sometimes to take the time to see inside. And I think that when you don't have the time to look inside, you really don't understand who you are, and when you don't know who you are, you can't take proper decisions when it comes to everything in life. I think getting to know each other to a deeper level is very important in the way we make decisions and we live our lives. So because we live such in a fast environment, and also especially our work, I think that's very hard to do. So I always say to the guys, if you don't like yoga, maybe go for a run. Meditation was a big thing, even just, I remember a lot of chefs when I used to tell them, okay, just notice your breath, observe your breath. They used to struggle, even just to close their eyes. There was so much hesitance in, and fear to just close your eyes and observe your breath. And it's such a simple thing, So it was quite interesting, and I think a lot of chefs get good things out of it.
Do you think that's people are really trying to shield themselves from vulnerability, where they just don't want to close their eyes and breathe?
Yeah. Well, because I think also sometimes chefing has always been related to being fearless and not scared of the long hours and the pressure. So that creates this kind of shield, as you were saying, which makes people be afraid of being vulnerable. But also I think being able to be vulnerable is actually one of the biggest strengths that someone can acquire. It takes a lot of strength and courage to be vulnerable and be open to others. And I think a lot of the mental health issues in our industry are because of that, because we're not used to share our problems. Which is a bit hypocritical, because we spend so much time with each other in the kitchen or in the front of house that we are almost like a family. And or especially a lot of workers like me that came from overseas, have families very far, and the only people we can actually have the connection, the kind of deep bond, are the people in the kitchen or in the front. And if you can't be open with your family, who are you going to be open with? And it's so important to share our issues, or when we feel stress, or we're struggling, is very much a relief to let things go and be able to receive other people's help. Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, so many people in hospitality and in society in general are struggling with the uncertainty of the situations that we're in at the moment. And of course, you know, it's everyone is in their own story, but there is definitely commonalities. What kind of advice would you give to people who are really struggling with the uncertainty that we're living through at the moment?
Well, what helped me a lot on the first lockdown was to make a list of friends or people that you have a good connection with, and just, you know, like each day call one of them and spend some time on the phone, like being keen to listen rather than, you know, because sometimes listening to others is actually helping more than, you know, letting all the problems out. Yeah, so I think like talking with friends and creating the kind of connection, it can be helpful. Yeah, do a little bit of activity as well. Yeah, and taking the time to do something for you, for yourself. I know it's hard. Yeah, especially if you live alone and you're at home from work, you know, you don't know what to do. Like one of my chefs actually, she's struggling a little bit in that sense, and you know, sometimes I feel so guilty as a restaurant owner that I can't provide her enough time here in the restaurant. But you know, I check on her almost daily, see how she's doing. Yeah.
That's great. So, Paolo, you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that people don't know what to do with vegetables, and I reckon that's very true. But I love building meals around vegetables. But I'm going to throw you a puzzle. Let's not do eggplant. Let's do a winter vegetable. What if I throw you a celeriac? What will I do with it, or what will you do with it?
Well, so I have a celeriac dish on the menu at the moment. Actually, it's not a dish. Is one of the bar snacks. Actually, it's in between the bar snacks and the entree size. We're making like this delicious broth. It's a roasted celeriac, roasted apple, and kale kind of broth. And what we do, we peel the celeriac and we roast the skins and the celeriacs in cubes, like to 210 degrees in the oven, like dry, and until it's kind of black. And we do the same with the apples, red apples, and then we make like a nice sofrito with onions, carrots, celery. If we have any mushroom scraps, we use them. And parsnips, sorry, we use also a little bit of parsnips, a little bit of ginger, and then we, you know, pour all the veggies in the pot, cold water, bring to a simmer, and simmer for like few hours, and then we clarify with the egg whites draft as also fresh ginger and a little bit of soy sauce in it, and then we clarify through like we bring to 80 degrees so the egg white cleans up the broth. We strain it, and then we serve it with some fresh stingy nettle oil, and people are loving it. Like we serve it in a little mug as a welcoming snack or as an entree to warm up people, and as this beautiful like sweet appley celeriac with the zinginess of the ginger, and yeah, I love the dish. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds absolutely delicious. I'm going to do it.
And we use always so we're trying to make it like a master stock. So we always keep a little bit of the old one and reuse it in the new one. So it keeps intensifying all the time. And yeah, I love the dish. Yeah, I love broths and soups. Anything like is warming like that. I love the kind of food like nourishing and earthy. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Paolo, it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you. I feel like we've really covered a lot, and yeah, the person who asked me to speak to you. Thank you so much for leading me to this conversation. Do you have any final words for the listeners, Paolo?
Well, just wanted to thank you for the opportunity of spreading my story, and also to get people to know Riso a little bit more. And just can't wait for the lockdown to finish and, do what we like to do and serve delicious food. So thanks everyone, and thanks to all the community here in Fitzroy that supported us recently with the takeaways that we did on last Saturday, but also on the previous lockdown. And thanks to all the friends and suppliers that keep helping us all the time. We wouldn't be open if it wasn't for all the community. So super grateful and super thankful for that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Paolo. Take care, and it's great to chat.
Thanks, Dani. Ciao.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This